What's going on YouTube? So a few short months ago, we reviewed the all-new Blazer EV in California. And surprisingly, this Blazer EV has undergone quite a few changes before arriving in our driveway here in Kentucky, including a big thousands of dollar price drop. So, with that considered, is this the EV to buy over all the competition? Well, after 7 days, let's go ahead and find out. All right, so let's start out under the hood of this Blazer EV. Now, this is a pretty complicated setup in terms of your different options. We'll get into all of that later on in the test drive, but as far as this specific model we're testing today, this is an 85 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. We have dual motor all-wheel drive with 288 horsepower, and our total range on this model is going to be 279 miles.
Now, like Drew said, we are taking this out on a spin later on in this video. We'll also be getting things like our signature sound level reading going 55 miles per hour on our home stretch of roads. Additionally, later on, we're going to be talking about potential resale value and reliability, which is a new element we're adding to our reviews.
But first, let's close up the hood and take a look at this very stylish exterior as well as the very red interior. Now, before I get into the exterior design, I do want to take a second to just point out that with these big price reductions, this is not caused by the introduction of new trim levels. This is actually just existing trim levels being reduced in price. So because of that, this RS trim level, for example, you're not going to notice any changes in terms of the overall equipment or design. And the rest of the lineup is going to be expanding throughout this year to include a lot more models. But this RS trim level, as you can see, you do have the sporty element on board up here in the front. You've got this blacked out grille. Of course, it is mostly sealed off as an electric product, but you do have some ventilation down here at the bottom. RS branding over here on this side. Now, lighting, of course, is a big element of the design. So we've got the big light bar that goes prominently across the front. The bow tie emblem is going to be illuminated. And in terms of our lighting itself, of course, it is full LED. You have projector LED low and high beams across the entire lineup. You have the daytime running light and turn signal indicator right through there. And these do have animations for entry and exit on the RS. Now, as we move around to the rear, the very stylish look does continue. Certainly looks a lot wider, in my opinion, versus, say, that Equinox EV that we looked at recently.
Yeah, I really like the sporty flair with this model. Now, as far as design elements, I do want to point out we have a nice spoiler up top, an exposed rear wiper, and then let's check out the taillight elements and see if they're all LED. That's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews. As you can see, we do have an LED brake light portion, LED reverse light, and LED turn signal. So all your elements are LED. These back lights also do have animation just like the front as well. Now, as we head down to this lower fascia, all of this is going to be finished in a nice piano black. I like that it's not like a rugged black or anything like that. No exposed exhaust outlets, as you would expect. Your tow rating's 1,500 pounds.
Now, moving on to our wheels, the LT trim level has 19-inch alloys. The RS trim level comes with these very nice looking 21-inch alloy wheels. I think this design really makes the overall look of the exterior pop. They fill out the wheel wells nicely, and I like the overall look. We do have kind of aero covers over top of it for maximal efficiency, but it still looks very nice. Now, you're also going to notice we have gloss black finish that goes around the wheel arches and many of the panels on the vehicle, including this like accent, which would be the charge port on the other side. And then we also have the blacked out finish on our mirrors. So with the RS trim level, these will come fully loaded. So you have blind spot monitoring, auto dimming on the driver's side, power folding, and heating.
Now, here at the side of the Blazer EV, you're going to see a very sleek overall, sporty shape to this vehicle. It comes in at an overall vehicle length of 192.2 inches long, which is actually a touch longer than something like a gas Blazer. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, I do want to point out that Chevy's going to include just a handful of them as standard equipment on this model. However, never fear, you can option on adaptive cruise control, and furthermore, you can also option on Super Cruise, which is a hands-free highway driving assist function. It's a very impressive system we've sampled out in a lot of other GM products, and now it even has the availability to do secondary roads. But guys, that's going to wrap up the exterior design. Let's go ahead and dive into that very red interior. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now let's go ahead and check out the interior. First, show you the key fob. This does have a very conventional key fob. It's just your typical Chevy affair. Of course, you have smart entry, you have remote startability. You also do have a digital key system to get inside. Now, when you walk up to the Blazer EV, there's no pop-out door handles or anything complicated. You just have this conventional door handle and you press the silver button to unlock the door. All right, now taking a look inside the interior here. Like Mason said, it is a very red interior, and this is certainly something that got a lot of attention this week from everyone that looked at this model. They really loved it. You can, of course, get a more conventional black color, but here on the RS trim level, the important thing to note about the seats is the fact that you have a suede in the center section and then an Evo Tex on the outside. So that's going to be a leatherette or a faux leather. There's no real leather option with the Blazer EV. As you can see up there in the headrest, you do have RS kind of embroidered in. Now down below, we do have 10 ways of power adjustment on the RS trim level. The RS is also going to give you memory seats. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now that we're inside here, we'll go ahead and take a look at the rest of the interior. One of the things I really like is the fact that they make the red kind of an all-encompassing interior theme. So you will have the red leatherette that runs all across the armrest. You've got a black leatherette that's across the top here with a stitching detail. As far as the center section, we have kind of a textured plastic. Now moving to the upper part of the dashboard, this is a leatherette as well with a stitching detail, more of the red through there. We have a faux carbon fiber. And then down on the middle panel here, again, nicely padded with the perforated leather for your knee to rest against, and a little piano black accent used sparingly right there in the center. Now, there's no push button start on this model. This actually fires up when you get inside, put your foot on the brake, or also sometimes when you get inside and just kind of set down, it'll go ahead and fire up. In that case, it did do that earlier while the camera was not rolling. So everything is fully system booted up here. So with that being said, let's get into some of the individual features. We'll begin with our gauge cluster. So this obviously is a dual screen arrangement with an 11-inch display for your gauge cluster. You can reconfigure this with a number of different designs, all the way, from something very minimalistic like that, or you can actually build in like your full Google Maps right there into the display. So very nice. We also have the available head-up display, which contains a lot of information and is very big and vivid. Now, pulling back to the steering wheel, I love this aspect of the interior because this is a nice, thick, meaty steering wheel with the RS model, flat bottom as well, and we have the cross-stitch finished in the color contrast red. In terms of the wheel itself, it is going to be heated, and we have manual tilt and telescoping. Now let's turn over here to our center console. We'll take a look and see what we have inside here. Well, look at that. It's donuts. That's because this is Car Confections, and we like to do the donut test to test the volume of this model. So inside of here, we have 15 donuts. That is a great measure. It is obviously more than a dozen, and they fit in there quite nicely as well. But we still have a good deal more storage in addition to that because we have our wireless phone charging pad right there, grippy lining on that. If we slide this back, we have another quite large bin, great place for sticking your sunglasses, and we have 2 USB-C ports. Now obviously the shifter is not there, it's up here on the column. We're seeing this kind of expand across all General Motors products. Pull down for drive, press up for reverse. When you go into reverse, we do have the optional 360-degree camera system. That, as you can see, does have the active trajectory. We have front and rear parking sensors as well, and you can change between a wide variety of different views right over there on the side. Now, right on the end of the stalk, just press the P, that's for park. We also have an electronic parking brake with brake hold located on the other side of the steering wheel. Now let's move to this region and discuss climate controls. Now, we do have the cool vents that look a lot like the gas-powered Blazer, and then you do have a dual-zone automatic climate system if you choose an RS trim level. Nice physical controls running right through there, even though we do have some of the additional controls located inside of the touchscreen. Heated seats are going to be standard on RS trim level, and we also have the available seat ventilation. Now, another big physical knob we have is our audio system. So on this model, we do have the 6-speaker sound system. There is going to be some availability of a Bose sound system, but we don't have it, and we'll go ahead and give it a sample. Overall sound quality is fine, but I would certainly like to see a branded sound system at this price point. All right, let's talk about the infotainment system. This, of course, is going to be a major focus of the cabin, not just because it's 17.7 inches, which is absolutely enormous, but also because it has a controversial element, and that's the fact that Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are not supported, wired or wireless. It's just absolutely not supported. This is something that General Motors is doing across their electric lineup only, but it is across their electric lineup, and this is obviously electric. Now, as you can see, though, how they do this is that they have a lot of apps built into the system itself so that you don't have to rely on your phone. So you do have Google apps built in, such as Play Store, Google Maps, things like that. Overall, in our week of usage, you can get used to it for sure, although I definitely would like to just have the more familiar interface of Android Auto. That way it's the same in every vehicle that I drive. Now, as we move above here, we do have an auto dim mirror. This is also going to be a digital camera mirror, so you flip that switch, it cuts out all the rear obstructions. And then you'll notice up top, we just have the sealed off roof. You can get a sunroof on some models.
And now let's go ahead and check out the rear seat area of this Blazer EV. Now, as far as this area is concerned, let's talk about space first. About 39 inches of legroom, about 39 inches of headroom. So good amounts of space in this model, actually more space than you would expect from the sleek exterior design. For someone who is 5'9" like myself, there is a lot of legroom. As a matter of fact, I bring our ruler along for our review so we can see how much knee room there is behind Drew's seating position. It's a solid about 9 inches of additional knee space. He's 5'8", and I'm 5'9", for reference. Now, in terms of the seat itself, it does not recline, so do be aware of that. This is going to be pretty much a fixed position seat, or I guess you could call that much recline, so not much whatsoever. As far as features are concerned, we have vents here in the center as standard equipment. They're the same kind of Camaro style vents, 2 USB-C ports, and we also have optional rear seat heating on this RS trim level. If we fold down the armrest, we do have 2 cup holders inside. That's where we're going to be putting our Stanley water bottle, because that's the only spot it's going to fit here in the rear, because the rear door trim, it's going to be pretty small. It would fit a bottle, though. As far as materials, it is going to be roughly the same as the front, although the top part is hard touch as compared to the leatherette in the front. Now, walking up to the tailgate of the Blazer EV, we do have GM's new auto sense ability. So when you walk up, it'll sense the key fob and beep a few times and open up the tailgate. That's on RS trim levels, very similar to something like you've seen on a Hyundai Kia product. Now, as far as the rear space is concerned, 25.5 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. If we fold those seats down, which I can do easily by just like reaching up here and pushing that lever, and then as a maximum with the seats folded down, we're sitting at 59 cubic feet. As you can see, they do fold 60-40 split folding. They do fold flat with the floor. And one of the things we do in all of our Car Confections reviews is bring out our tape measure so we can see how much length and width and height we have in our cargo area. Behind the Drew's 5'8" driving position, we're sitting at 72 inches of overall cargo length with the seats folded down. From behind the second row, we're sitting at about 33 inches of length. The width is pretty good, 45 inches wide. As far as cargo height, that's going to be a little bit on the shorter side for sure. 27 inches of height. So that sleek design is costing you a little bit when it comes to the overall height. Be aware of that. If we fold up the cargo floor, you will notice that we have room for our charging cable right here, located in this area. I do want to point out there is not a spare tire, and there's also not going to be a frunk on this Blazer EV. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the new Blazer EV. Of course, in this 7-day review, we're going to be doing things like our signature sound level reading. But first of all, we do want to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
All right, that's 60 miles per hour with the Blazer EV. This is the RS all-wheel drive like we discussed earlier, and you know, that does have implications in terms of power. I kind of talked about that just a little on the spec dump. This is a complicated vehicle because it is going to kind of vary to what drivetrain you have, what battery pack, how much horsepower you have. There's a lot of different choices when it comes to this Blazer EV. But as far as this one specifically, 288 horsepower, 333 pound-feet of torque, 85 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. That's good for 0 to 60 of about 6 seconds, which feels right behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Definitely pretty quick on its feet, but it's not insanely fast. So that's not the purpose of this version, to be insanely fast. There will be an SS version later on that will do that job.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good balance. You know, if you're coming from a gas-powered vehicle into this, you're going to feel like this is quick. It certainly has that electric sensation of just instantaneous torque, but it's not overwhelmingly fast. You're not going to black out upon acceleration or anything like that. Now, I do want to point out the other powertrain choice. You have the rear drive version. So the rear drive version of this vehicle, like Drew said, is going to be completely different. So it's going to have a 102 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. So pretty big battery size increase for the rear drive model. That's going to make 340 horsepower, 325 pound feet of torque instead. And of course, that when it goes to range, that will translate to a higher range figure because you do have a higher battery pack capacity as well. So a lot of things to consider here, like Drew said. Additionally, Chevy has pointed out that they will offer a front-wheel drive version of this vehicle, not available just yet.
Yeah, so that's right. This will be available rear drive, front wheel drive, and all-wheel drive. That's kind of crazy, but I believe that's the first vehicle I've ever heard of that's going to be available in all wheel configurations, except for, I guess, a single-wheel drive. But yeah, that's pretty interesting for sure. And we'll get another acceleration here as I make this corner. Yes, certainly plenty of power for everyday usage.
But now that we're just kind of cruising along here on the highway, I want to go ahead and talk about ride quality. So when we drove this vehicle back in California for an extensive media drive, we were pretty impressed with the ride quality. After living with it for an entire week, we're also pretty impressed with the ride quality. Even though you have those large wheels on the outside, it does a pretty good job of soaking up the bumps. The one thing I will point out, though, is that this vehicle has a little bit more of a sporty character to it than, you know, some of the gasoline choices that you might be choosing instead in this two-row segment. So I will point that out. It does feel a little bit sportier, and that does mean you have a little bit rougher of a ride quality. All right, and now it's time for us to get our sound level reading. That's something that I'm sure you guys have been waiting on ever since our media drive. We're back home so we can get our official sound level reading. Going 55 miles an hour, we have on fan speed 1. .9 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading. And if you're curious as to how that compares to its rivals, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, because we post all the vehicles that we review on our channel on our website, so you can easily compare vehicles within the same segment as well as other segments for your reference.
And there's a sport mode acceleration. Feels a little quicker when you do that, but the main thing is really going to be the sound effect. Just gives you kind of a more aggressive sound amplification when you're accelerating.
And I alluded to this earlier, but let's go ahead and discuss range figures for this Blazer EV. So the rear drive model does come in at the best range, as you would expect out of the larger battery pack, 324 miles of EPA estimated range. That's a very good figure. Now, if you choose the all-wheel drive version, like what we have today, you're looking at about 279 miles of estimated range. So keep that in mind. The all-wheel drive, because of its battery pack as well as the all-wheel drive setup, does have quite a bit less range than the rear drive model. So if you're living in a place that doesn't get a lot of snow or whatnot, I would definitely recommend choosing the rear drive instead. However, you are incentivized because the price is a little bit lower for this all-wheel drive version, surprisingly. Now, as far as your charging, that's also an important aspect of any EV. So we're sitting at 190 kilowatt DC fast charging as our max speed, which is capable of 78 miles of range in as little as 10 minutes. As you can see on the outside, the charge port is located on the driver's side of the vehicle up in the front, and that whole panel just kind of pops off.
And it's still a CCS charger for now. As we go around that corner there, I do want to mention dynamics briefly. Now, like Mason was saying, while this is definitely going to be a good measure sportier than, say, the gas Chevy Blazer, it's not designed to be a super sporty SUV in this configuration, at least. So it's pretty balanced. The weight's down low when you go around corners. The steering is definitely light, even in the sport mode, and has a little bit of a dead feel on center. But I do want to point out, of course, we already said it, the SS is coming out pretty soon, and Mason and I actually got a cool opportunity to ride along in the PPV, which is the police pursuit vehicle based on the SS, with a actual highway patrol officer. And it was really cool. Great experience with that, and it's really, really fast. So the preliminary stuff that we're seeing with that's going to be a very impressive, genuine sport SUV. But for now, this RS trim level is geared more towards comfort.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and dive into our slam dunk and airball, which is our favorite and least favorite element about this vehicle. Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk?
Yeah, so for the slam dunk, I'm not going to get super into this quite yet because it is literally the next thing coming up here in just a matter of moments. The pricing. Big price decrease. You don't see that very often, especially in recent years. Everything just kind of goes up, 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 up. This gets a substantial price decrease, and Mason's going to talk about that in just a second.
Yeah, so hold your horses. All right, and on the airball side of things, what we're going to say is that even despite that price decrease, this is still significantly more expensive than the Equinox EV, and of course the Equinox EV is a very competitive electric vehicle. It has actually quite similar space to this Blazer EV, so that may just be a little bit of a better choice than this model. Now, I know you've been waiting on this part of the video, the price reduction for this Blazer EV, and there's a lot to talk about here. So first of all, as Drew mentioned, they haven't changed the trim levels or anything like that. They've just lowered the price, and it's lowered by a lot of money, $3,000 across the trim levels. So we now start at $48,800 for the base 2LT all-wheel drive RS. 54,200 now, and the all-wheel drive model, like what we're seeing today, is starting at $53,200 now. So that's a big price difference from before. Also, what's big is that it does also qualify for the tax rebate of $7,500. So that $7,500 tax credit will further reduce that price down. So very significant savings from when we past reviewed it in December of last year. And if you're looking to buy a Chevy Blazer EV or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and there's also a pinned comment at the top of this video. Now let's talk about potential resale value and reliability to make sure you are making a smart purchase. Now first up, let's take a look at resale value. Now, as an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Blazer EV's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years, this Blazer EV will be worth around 54.7% of its original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 20.4%. Now, that is a pretty good resale value overall. It is above industry average. However, do keep in mind that this is an electric vehicle, and electric vehicles do tend to have a higher resale value variability.
Now, we've also done the same for potential reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. That takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that is more useful to you guys. In this respect, Chevy is one of our top brands in overall reliability, well above average.
Now, if you'd like to learn about all of our data about reliability and resale values, as well as learn about our methodology, make sure to head to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is certainly a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. And guys, that's going to be it for our week-long review of the all-new 2024 Chevy Blazer EV. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and we do a lot of car reviews that I'm sure you won't want to miss out on. So please hit that subscribe button down below. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You played a very pivotal role in getting this vehicle down here for us to test out for a full 7 days, so thank you for that. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.